Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet the one possession he wrote about guarding most fiercely was not territory, not gold, not power. It was time. He believed that every hour surrendered to another person's noise was an hour stolen from your own life, and that most people gave theirs away without resistance. Think of how carefully you protect your money, your possessions, even your phone. Now think of how easily you hand your attention to interruptions, demands, and obligations you never truly chose. In this video we will examine what Marcus Aurelius understood about time, why he treated it as the only irreplaceable currency, and how he refused to let others spend his life for him. If the Stoics' approach resonates with you, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Around 170 AD, in a private notebook never meant for publication, he wrote in Meditations Book 2, "Do every act as if it were your last." These were not lessons for an audience. They were a dying man reminding himself how to live. Marcus Aurelius observed a strange contradiction in human behavior, one that has only grown sharper with the centuries. We defend our property with locks and laws, we count our coins and guard our possessions, and yet we give away our time to anyone who asks for it, without hesitation and without record. This is why he wrote in Meditations that a man's life is dyed by the color of his thoughts and his hours, because what we spend our time on becomes, quite literally, what our life is made of. The Stoics held that all external goods could be restored. A lost fortune can be rebuilt, a damaged reputation can be repaired, a broken relationship can sometimes mend. Time alone cannot be returned, which means it is the only thing we truly own and the only thing we cannot replace. Therefore the careless surrender of an hour is not a small loss but the irreversible loss of a fragment of existence itself. What this reveals is a profound failure of value. We treat the replaceable as precious and the irreplaceable as worthless. We negotiate fiercely over money while giving away mornings, evenings, and entire years to obligations we never examined. But this raises a harder question that Marcus forces us to confront: if time is so precious, why do we let others take it so freely? The answer Marcus arrived at is uncomfortable, because it places the responsibility not on the thief but on the one being robbed. He wrote in Meditations that we should not act as if we had 10,000 years to live, since death hangs over us, and yet we behave precisely as though our time were infinite. This illusion of endless supply is what makes us generous with the very thing we should guard most carefully. When you believe you have unlimited hours, the loss of any single hour feels trivial, and so you give it away to the demanding, the trivial, and the urgent without protest. The Stoics understood that other people will fill your time as readily as water fills any empty vessel, because most human beings live reactively, pulled by whatever shouts loudest. This is why Marcus practiced deliberate withdrawal into what he called the inner citadel, a fortress of attention that no external demand could breach without his consent. The crucial insight, however, is that no one can steal your time without your cooperation, since the surrender is always, in some sense, a choice. We blame the interruption, the obligation, the demanding voice, but Marcus would say the failure is in our own refusal to decide what our hours are for. What Marcus wrote next deepens this point in a way most people would rather avoid, because it concerns a debt that can never be repaid. Marcus returns repeatedly in the Meditations to a single hard fact: the present moment is the only thing any person truly possesses, because the past is already gone and the future is not yet ours. In Book 3 he writes that even if you were to live 3,000 years, you could lose only the present moment, for no one can lose what they do not have. What this means is that life is not a long stretch of time but a continuous succession of present instants, each one arriving once and departing forever. When another person consumes your attention with their noise, their drama, or their manufactured urgency, they are not borrowing your time, because borrowing implies return. They are taking instants that will never come again, and no apology, no compensation, and no future favor can restore them. This is why Marcus treated each hour with a seriousness that strikes the modern reader as almost severe, since for him a wasted afternoon was not an inconvenience but a small death. And yet there is a strange freedom in this recognition, because once you understand that every moment is irreplaceable, you also understand that you are never obligated to spend it carelessly. The Stoic does not hoard time out of fear but spends it with intention, the way a wise person spends a limited and precious sum. But the deepest application of this teaching lies in something Marcus practiced every single day, a discipline that transforms how you experience the present itself. The practical discipline at the heart of Marcus Aurelius's view of time is captured in one of his most famous lines from Meditations Book 2, "Perform every act as if it were the last of your life." This is not a counsel of despair but a tool of precision, because the awareness of death strips away everything that does not matter and reveals what does. When you truly grasp that any hour might be your final hour, the petty demands and borrowed anxieties of others lose their power to command you, since you can no longer afford to surrender your last moments to triviality. The Stoics called this exercise memento mori, the deliberate remembrance of mortality, and they practiced it not to become gloomy but to become awake. Therefore the person who lives with death in view becomes, paradoxically, the freest of all, because they no longer waste the present mourning the past or fearing the future. Marcus governed an empire, fought wars on the frozen frontier, and buried most of his children, and still he wrote these reflections to keep his attention anchored in the only moment he actually possessed. What this reveals, finally, is that guarding your time is not selfishness but the highest form of respect for the gift of existence. The most practical conclusion is simple: before you give an hour away, ask whether you would spend it that way if it were your last. Marcus Aurelius understood that time is the one possession we can never recover, that others will take it as freely as we surrender it, and that the remembrance of death is what restores our power to choose how each hour is spent. The thread running through all of it is this: your life is made of moments, and to let another person waste them carelessly is to let them spend a portion of your existence you will never get back. The practical implication is clear and immediate. Begin treating your time the way you already treat your money, deciding deliberately what deserves it and refusing the demands that do not. The Stoics wrote for themselves, but what they left behind survived 2,000 years for a reason. Subscribe and we will keep exploring why.